It was a town that time seemed to have abandoned. Nestled between thick, whispering woods and the jagged cliffs of an unrelenting coastline, Grayridge had always carried a strange aura, the kind that made travelers glance over their shoulders, even when the sun hung high. To the residents, life was simple yet peculiar, as if the town existed slightly out of sync with the world outside. People walked with an odd slowness, and clocks ticked inconsistently, sometimes skipping seconds and other times lingering too long on a single minute. Among the town's few secrets, the most persistent and unnerving was the legend of the forgotten hour, a time that arrived once in a lifetime, at the stroke of midnight, when reality itself seemed to unravel. Elena Harper had arrived in Grayridge seeking solitude. A writer struggling to finish her latest novel. She had chosen the town precisely for its isolation, thinking that the constant drizzle and decaying architecture would inspire her creativity. On her first night, she wandered the cobbled streets, her boots clicking against uneven stones as a fog rolled in thick and heavy, curling around street lamps and stairwells. She noticed immediately the way the town seemed to watch her. The shutters closed tightly against unknown eyes, the wind carrying whispers she could not fully understand. Her lodgings were an old inn called the Raven's Rest, a squat building of blackened wood and soot-stained windows. The innkeeper, an elderly man named Mr. Calder, welcomed her with a crooked smile that revealed more teeth than warmth. "You're here at the right time," he said cryptically, gesturing vaguely at the town beyond the door. "Grayridge has its ways. The hour comes for everyone eventually." Elena laughed nervously, assuming it to be a local superstition. Yet something in his tone, the weight of unspoken knowledge, made her uneasy. That night, she lay awake in her small room, listening to the rain tapping a relentless rhythm against the window. She tried to write, but every word seemed to evaporate the moment she put pen to paper. It was then she noticed the clock on her wall, old and brass, ticking in a peculiar fashion. As the hands approached midnight, they trembled, and then, without warning, paused entirely. The silence was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of the wind outside. Suddenly, the room felt different. Shadows stretched unnaturally long across the walls. The air grew heavy, carrying a metallic scent that made her stomach churn. Then she heard it, the faint, mournful wail of someone, or something, calling her name. Her heart raced, but her legs refused to move. It was as if the very fabric of time had trapped her in a singular moment. Then, with a slow, grinding sound, the floorboards beneath her creaked and split, revealing a dark stairwell spiraling downward into utter blackness. A compulsion gripped her, and despite the fear clawing at her, Elena descended, each step echoing into an infinite void. At the bottom, she found herself in a vast chamber filled with clocks of every imaginable kind. Pocket watches, grandfather clocks, ornate timepieces whose faces were smeared and distorted. Their hands spun uncontrollably, some moving backward, others paused mid-motion. In the center of the room stood a figure shrouded in shadow, its form impossible to define, yet undeniably human. "Elena Harper," it whispered, its voice a chorus of echoes. "You have arrived at the forgotten hour." "Who, what are you?" she stammered, but her voice sounded distant, swallowed by the cavernous space. "I am the keeper," the shadow replied. "This hour is not bound by the world, you know. Here, time is memory, and memory is truth. You see, every choice you have ever made, every path you did not take, converges here. And once you enter the forgotten hour, you must confront what was forgotten or be forgotten yourself." Elena's mind reeled. Faces of people she had known, decisions she had regretted, fleeting moments of joy and sorrow. Everything flickered before her eyes like a broken film reel. She realized, with a sinking heart, that the forgotten hour was not just a legend. It was a reckoning. And she had no choice but to face it. The keeper extended a hand, and suddenly, she was thrust into memories not entirely her own. She saw a child abandoned in the woods, crying for a mother who would never return. She saw a young man lost to ambition, making a mistake that would haunt generations. Each vision was more vivid than reality, and each one demanded acknowledgement. She understood now. The forgotten hour was not merely a test. It was a mirror, reflecting every hidden truth of human existence. As the night stretched on, or perhaps as time itself stretched and warped, Elena wandered through the labyrinth of moments, confronting fear, guilt, and longing. She relived losses she had buried deep, and she touched joys she had never cherished enough. Each revelation weakened her resolve, yet strengthened her understanding. She began to see patterns in the chaos, connections between lives and choices that were invisible in the linear world. Finally, at the heart of the chamber, she found a small, simple clock, unlike the others. Its hands were steady, unwavering, and it exuded a quiet, calm presence. The keeper's voice came again. "This is your choice. Accept what has been forgotten, and you may leave. Deny it, and remain here, lost to the currents of time." Elena hesitated. She thought of her own life, the people she loved, the words she had left unsaid, the stories she had left unwritten. With a deep breath, she touched the clock. A warmth spread through her, and she felt the memories align, settle, and finally make sense. The chamber dissolved into nothingness, replaced by the soft, familiar light of her in room. The clock on her wall ticked normally again. Dawn broke over Grayridge, pale and hesitant, and Elena emerged from the Raven's rest changed. She understood the fragile, intricate nature of time, and the responsibility of memory. She walked through the streets with new eyes, noticing the small details she had overlooked before. The way the wind tangled the branches of trees, the way strangers smiled with quiet lives behind their eyes. She realized that the forgotten hour came for everyone, but it was not meant to terrify. It was meant to awaken. Years later, Elena would write a book, not just a novel, but a testament to the unseen, the unremembered, the moments that define existence. She titled it The Forgotten Hour, though she never revealed the truth of Grayridge to the world. Some things, she knew, were not meant to be shared. And yet, in the quiet moments, when the clock struck midnight somewhere far away, she would feel a familiar shiver, remembering the chamber of clocks, and the keeper who showed her the weight and beauty of every forgotten moment. Time, she learned, was never lost. It was merely waiting for someone to remember.